That is a good point, right? So the question on the table was: is it possible that Shlomo Melech missed a Mishlei? And so first answer Isaac gave is he said the fact that the Anshe Chizkiyahu's Mishlei starts in 25. Those are the ones that they're Mishlei Shlomo that Anshe Chizkiyahu wrote down. Hold on. That indicates that that like Shlomo didn't write down all of his Mishlei, but you could still say, well, there's still Mishlei Shlomo, I think we can pass that motion. But there's a more explicit pasuk that says, I don't know why this is taking so long. So it says in probably Sefer Malachim Beis. No. Yeah. No. Huh. Hold on. No, not shiur. If I can't find it immediately, I'll just summarize it. When it's talking about Shlomo's Chachma, slowing down my speech so I can wait till it loads, then it says what he wrote. Okay, here we go. Let's see if this works. Mishlei, or not Mishlei, Malachim Beis probably. Nope.
Summary is also good.
I'll have to find it. Yeah, I mean, it says the number of Mishalim that he wrote, and it's a lot more than there are psukim in Mishlei. So like
he actually says a number.
Yeah, it says a number. Yeah. Now there are some who say that, yeah. So there are some who say that like when I want to say that the number, I can't remember what the number is, but there are some who say that like all of the Mishlei he wrote is like contained in Sefer Mishlei. Like each pasuk has like many ideas. I don't really buy that.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I think there are many more. And again, Mishlei is a genre. Like other people who wrote Mishlei. After him, like the Mivchar Pninim is a work on ethics that that the Meiri always quotes. Yeah, okay. So let's get going with our pasuk, 21-23, and I think I'm going to just state the challenge ahead of time. This is the challenge with this pasuk is going to be. It sounds very general. Okay, Shomer piv ulashono shomer mitzaros nafsho.
Someone who watches their mouth and language.
Yeah, one who I'm going to say guards, but I'll also say watches. One who guards his mouth and literally tongue, right? I mean, I would have said language in general, but the fact that it's splitting up to mouth and tongue, yeah. Shomer misaros nafsho.
He guards his pain in his soul.
Yeah, so I'm going to say guards himself because I think that's the implication, even though it's not written there, from afflictions of his soul. Okay, or torments of his soul. How do you want to say Sarah? I always distresses. Let's say distresses of his soul.
Sarah.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so Targum I think is just straight up. Oh, did I not put Sadigon in there, or did I just not save it? No? Is there a Sadigon? There must be a Sadigon. Oh, no, maybe there's no Sadigon. Maybe that's why I didn't put it. There is no Sadigon. Okay, that's why. Okay, and Targum I think is also just normal. Denater pume v'lishane, one who guards his mouth and his tongue. Natar min aksa nafshe, guards from the distresses of his soul. Okay, so no Targum. Okay, we got it easy here. Our scroll, one who guards his mouth and tongue guards his soul from troubles. Okay, we can say troubles. Sarah, right? Living Knox says, he who guards his mouth and tongue guards his soul from affliction. Alter says, who guards his mouth and tongue guards his life from trouble. Yeah, okay. What are the questions?
I mean, the main question is it's obvious, but however...
Oh, you think it's obvious?
It's good. It's good to still state the obvious.
Okay, fine. So we have one question is, it's obvious. Or it's not obvious. No. Yeah. Or is it? Yeah. I mean, did anyone think it's not obvious?
I'd say it's obvious given other Mishlei psukim.
Okay.
Of which there are many.
The reason why I'm saying it's not obvious is because it's so general, and can be taken in so many different directions, which means that like whatever specific idea he's giving us is not obvious.
Maybe it's just obvious in my mind with the intuition that I'm headed.
Could be, yeah. Ellie?
How are the two correlated or connected?
Yeah. So what? So I mean, that's essentially asking how does this work, right?
Like,
How does this work?
what's the causation?
How does, guarding your mouth and tongue guard you from sorrows, nafsho? Yeah, Sean?
What is he guarding from?
Yeah, what you mean in the first half?
Yeah.
What is he guarding his mouth and tongue from?
What are sorrow nafsho?
What are sorrows? Let's split that into two questions. What is nefesh in this context? Okay, because nefesh can mean, you know what the common definitions of nefesh are?
So
Well, that's just a translation, right? But definitions.
himself or
Yeah, so one is just himself. Oops, sorry. Right, like for example, atzmo, right, is how we translate himself. But what does atzmo literally mean?
itself.
No,
Bone.
it's bone, right? It's bone, right? So nefesh also, nafsho literally means his soul, but it often just means himself. So what's another translation? What another common definition of nefesh?
I believe life force is
Yeah.
the definition.
Right, his life, right? Like, i.e., like biological life. Like for example, it says it in the Torah a lot, like kidamo benafshohu, like the blood is in the damo benafsh, whatever. The life is in the blood, right? Like the life force, you know. Kiadam hu nafesh. Yeah, right. Okay, so that's another one. What's another one? There's two more common, like just definitions.
Soul.
Well, that's a translation, right? What was soul? We're trying to disambiguate. So what does it mean?
I don't know.
Not so obvious anymore. Animalistic soul, right, is your biological / instinctual drives. Okay, like eating and sex.
Oh, the metaphysical soul.
And then the other one is the intellect, right? That's how the Rambam says it usually means. Yeah. So these are just four common possibilities, and that might not be an exclusive list. Like it could mean other stuff also. Yeah.
What if there is?
Oh, sorry. Hold on a second. Then there's your question, which is what are sorrows, nafsho, right? And obviously that's going to be dependent on four. Yeah.
What if there is the difference between mouth and tongue?
Okay. What is the difference between piv and lashono, if such a difference exists? Now, here's the interesting thing, right? So I like that you incorporate that into the question. Usually, that's the type of question that I'm not so bothered by. But like, let's say, for example, and this might seem like arbitrarily nitpicky, if it had piv in one half of the pasuk and lashono in the other half, I'd be totally comfortable saying that they're just synonyms, you know? But like, somehow the fact that they're both in one half and saying you have to be a guardian of your mouth and your tongue, to me, intuitively indicates that they are being used in different ways here. But I am open to the possibility. It's just saying if you guard your speech. Yeah.
Okay, so this is gonna be a very technical question.
Yeah.
Like, what is the definition of guarding? I know it seems a little obvious. And second question, at what point is the guarding? Is he like constantly guarding? Like
Okay.
he's living life
Yeah.
guarding it every
So-
day, or it's just random?
Yeah. So let's say let's add this here. What is shmira in this context? And that could be a separate question. Yeah. And how does this work? And then the other question is, so I was trying to think, I also had that question. I was trying to think of a way of,
Expressing the question.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to express clearly. Here, I'll tell you how I expressed it in my mind. See, I can't even do it.
It's hard. I know what you mean, because I'm having the same. Like,
Yeah.
There's something in the shmira that I'm
Right.
trying to.
So
emphasize.
at what level? What level of shmira? What level? Actually, let's put this here. What level of shmira results in? Of shmiras piv ulashono, shmiras piv ulashono results in shmiras nafsho mitzaros. And I would even add to this, this is my question came from another place, which is this talking about a certain type of person, i.e. A guardian of his mouth and tongue, or does this result come about just from the act of shmira? Right. In other words, like Alter had translated as, we translated one who guards his mouth and tongue, which might imply like this is a certain type of personality who does this as a habit, like as a possibility.
Yeah.
Or is it a thing like every single instance of guarding your mouth and tongue will guard you from certain sorrows, and like you don't have to have a certain perfection to do this. It's just a one-to-one ratio.
Yeah, it's like I
so
know
to
I
speak.
know someone who like takes it to the complete extreme.
Mhm.
Even like a hint of like lashon hara or whatever, like he wouldn't even like engage in.
Good.
Versus an actual. I'm just bringing it as a point.
Yeah.
As in like, is that a different type of guarding versus
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that it? I feel like that might be it.
The audience.
Do we define distresses?
We said, what is he guarding his mouth and tongue from? So let's say, what are the sorrows? Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry. Yeah. Distresses are here.
Okay. Can you scroll back up for one more second? Just want to make sure.
You could ask who's the audience, but I feel like this is anyone.
I'm just asking because it was what we do.
Yeah, so this was a machlokus between me and Rabbi Moskowitz about, we had certain questions that Rabbi Moskowitz was under the operated based on the principle that like, if you have a good standard Mishlei question, you should davka ask it every time, and I was under the, I was inclined towards you should ask it if it organically emerges, even if you end up asking it for 95% of psukim, so like his question was always, what is the subject of the pasuk? Which sometimes we ask, but he asked that like all the time. And like, there were times when I felt like we got it completely, like we were done with our analysis and we got the idea and he kept on just asking, what is the subject of the pasuk? And sometimes that would push us to further clarity. And sometimes I felt like he was just asking it to ask it, So I incline towards like asking it if
I'm just following the protocol.
No, you're right. Is that you should ask look fine. We'll ask it.
We don't have to.
No. Who is the audience? And the reason like. Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I just a meta comment here on the methodology, because you could fall into that trap of like the of making the methodology too rote. Yeah, exactly, too rote, and then you're not thinking. You're just asking. You're feeding the questions into the machine. Yeah, Isaac.
So my Wi-Fi cut out. I didn't hear what Ariel said.
Ariel said, "Who's the audience?" And I said, "I think the audience is everyone." And then Ariel said, I'm just asking because that's what we usually ask. And then I said that when Rabbi Moskowitz and I would learn Mishlei, then there was always kind of like a tension between, he would ask certain questions all the time, and I would only ask them if they were like warranted by the material, and I could see the benefits and detriments of either.
Yeah, he was talking about someone. I heard him start to talk about someone who constantly guards himself from saying lashon hara, and I didn't hear what was said.
Oh, you all the way that far back. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I think I mentioned the last thing. He was just saying how that was just elaborating on this question here, which is what level of shmiras piv u'lashono results in shmiras nafsha mitzaros? Meaning, is it a certain, first of all, what degree? Secondly, is it a certain type of person, like a perfection? You reach the perfection of being a shomer, becoming a shomer piv u'lashono, or is it like I was going to make one comment and I didn't, and therefore I'm going to get this type of shmira? Yeah, David. No, and then Mati. Yeah.
Another possible question.
Yeah.
Along with number 2, what is shmira in this context? What is doing the shmira in this context, or who is doing the shmira in this context? Is it like the guy overall himself? Is it like his speech that's doing the shmira for him? Would it be others doing some
Okay,
sort of
right.
shmira for him?
So practically speaking, how does one go about
How did the shmira go?
doing this shmira? Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, Mati?
I have like a semi approach.
Okay, yeah, I think we're done with the questions, right?
Just the pasuk.
Yeah. Yeah, Mati, what's your semi approach?
So we have piv and lashono.
Yeah.
So we have your mouth and your tongue. Could be like guard your mouth from like what you eat, what you put into it, and then
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
for what you speak, and both of those things, like it's a slippery slope between like physical things and
Yeah. Okay.
spiritual things.
That's-
that lead to detriment.
All right, so let me just repeat that because I doubt Isaac could hear. You couldn't hear, right, Isaac? Yeah, right. So he said maybe piv is what you eat, and lashon is what you speak. And I was laughing because I totally wasn't thinking about eating. I was just assuming that the entire pasuk was about speech, but that would be a good explanation for why it uses the two terms. And also the reason why I like it is because, first of all, this like lights up which definition of nefesh this might be talking about, right? Well, actually, maybe, I don't know. But like to me, it implies a greater candidacy for these two than I would have ordinarily thought. Like your really more this one, like your biological or instinctual nature, that like what you, yeah, I don't know, whatever. Maybe that's just my intuition. But the other thing also that I like about it is that it directly counteracts the problem that I predicted we would have. Is this sounded too general, but now see what you want in a Mishlei pasuk is you want a foothold, right? You want some foothold to step on. So like, speech is bad, like that was the like the cloudy gist that I got from it first. But this is like, the pasuk is about the relationship between eating and speaking. And I'm like, whoa, like that's something that we could actually like sink our teeth into, no pun intended, and explore. Yeah.
I could finish off the idea.
Oh, okay.
I had the idea, just I needed to answer the tongue and
Okay, sure.
the mouth. So I think it's actually beautiful because like the mouth you could say is what you consume.
Yeah.
But then the question is, why not listening? But whatever, let's just, for now, you're like absorbing lashon hara. Right, I'm gonna stick with lashon hara.
Okay, you're absorbing.
Yeah, like you're intaking it. Like
okay.
You're listening to it. You're
okay.
Just eating it.
I mean, I would agree that if that's your starting point, then the question is, why doesn't the pasuk talk about listening?
Look, that's what I asked.
Okay.
But just let's just play a little.
Why doesn't the pasuk talk about Mordechai and Esther?
Oh, because
I mean, if you start off with that premise, then it's a big cushion on the pasuk. Why doesn't it talk about Mordechai and Esther?
So
no,
then,
go ahead. Yeah.
So then, the tongue could be like what you're, what you're about to say, what you're speaking about.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just go with that for a second. Now, I feel like the Rambam actually works out amazing over here because like.
It usually does. Yeah.
With the Rambam says that when you say lashon hara,
yeah.
It not only does it affect the person who's saying the lashon hara, but it's also the receiver, the listener. Right. So like the person listening to that lashon hara, it affects him because he's now going to intake that information. He may have a negative, relationship with that individual, but in reality, it has nothing to do. It may have nothing to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a distress on himself because he may need to work with them or he may need to do stuff with them.
Right.
In reality, he's not.
Yeah. So I'm not throwing out the core of your idea, but I am throwing out the assumption that this is talking about listening to lashon hara. I just don't see any evidence for that. I think it's about speaking. If anything, it's about speaking because you're guarding your mouth, not your ears.
So then what's the difference between mouth and tongue? Yeah.
I think just because you give a bad answer doesn't mean that I'm gonna like I have a good answer,
So when you say mouth is eating,
well, I'm not just saying mouth is eating. I'm fine saying mouth is eating or speaking, but the pasuk is definitely talking about actions of your mouth, not actions of your ears. I'm putting my foot down.
But can it just be like it just intaking, just like internalize your internal?
Yeah, but you don't intake speech with your mouth. You outtake speech with your mouth. Take out. Yeah.
You're eating it. You're consuming the knowledge.
No, you do it through your ears. You don't listen through your mouth. Yeah. You see if you can salvage your idea. You
can listen to it.
Yeah.
Which is one thing.
Yeah.
Right. But when you're internalizing it, you're consuming that knowledge.
That's a possible route. So that's a stretch, but I'm not rejecting it. Like the other one I'm rejecting. This is a stretch. See, we're working on a little more. Yeah.
So which groups of people did we go over like Mishlei being for? Like we did it for like a wide range of people, like
right. So it is. So the four types that Shlomo Melech identifies in Mishlei 1, 3, and 4. Let's just see it inside because seeing things inside reinforces their reality. Mishlei is for 4 primary audiences. Laseis lepasaim arma, to give to naive or gullible simpletons, people who are moved by what feels good is good and what feels true is true, and vice versa. So that's Pesi. Na'ar is a youth. He gives the Na'ar das umzima, knowledge and strategy. Na'ar, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, is someone who is trending towards bad habits, but because he's still young, his character can change, and because he's under the auspices of his father, then his father can influence him, or in this case, like his teacher. Yishma Chacham Yosef Lakach. A Chacham will hear and will increase his learning. Chacham here is someone, plain shot, is either Mishlei Chacham, someone who sees the consequences of his actions, or someone who is a dependent learner, someone who can learn, but only from his teacher and from other sources. And then Navon Takbulus Yifne, a creative thinker, someone who can derive new knowledge, will acquire strategies. So those are the four main audiences, and there's a bunch of like sub audiences within that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's, and this could answer the question as to who the audience is.
Yeah.
Would be more like the Sayam to a certain degree,
Okay.
or maybe even Dinar, like people like that who think that things such as Lashon Hara are only damaging externally and not internally.
Interesting. See, it's funny. See, this is why I think it's not obvious, because I had the exact opposite intuition that I think people are aware that. Okay, well, at least in theory, people are aware that Lashon Hara is damaging internally, like in terms of your psyche. But I think I was inclined to think of it as nefesh, meaning your life, or your animalistic soul. That the pasuk is emphasizing Lashon Hara will even hurt your pleasure-seeking life, your pleasure and pain-seeking life, not just your spiritual life or whatever. Again, I agree that this is partly dependent on who the audience is. That's the obvious part. What's the obvious part?
The biological or animalistic part.
I think totally not obvious. I think that people think that I think if you go to groups of people who like gossip and who like spread rumors about each other, I think they think that they're getting enjoyment. I think it's a chidush to say you guys are creating pain for yourselves.
No, but the natural consequences, no one's going to want to deal with you in the future. But like
might
the
be.
more Lashon Hara you give, the more people are going to recognize that, and no one wants to deal with the guy like that.
Okay, it might be. Yeah,
that's just a natural consequence.
Yeah, I still think there's a chidush lurking in here. So okay, good. We're so you see from here it's not so obvious.
Yeah, again, a little general, but I think working along similar lines.
Yeah.
And Shomer Piv Ulshono, so like watching what you intake, be it, and I'm going to take Piv and Ulshono. Piv would be anything that you're intaking, be it food, be it like speech, anything that you're intaking that has like some like immediate pleasure to it, right? So
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, like intaking like enjoyable foods, just like anything like that. And Ulshono is also like not watching what you say and just like saying what feels good.
Okay, so you are talking about speaking, not listening, right? Because I was going to ask you the same question. Okay, because you said intake.
Intake, I was thinking more in like the food realm. I was thinking, I'm seeing this more in like a hedonistic type of just like eating whatever you're going to want to be eating, and then just like saying whatever you're going to want to be saying. Yeah. And that will have consequences to that exact thing you're trying to satisfy, that animalistic soul. Yeah. That will come back and have those, it will have consequences and make you overall more unhappy from having basket yourself in. Okay, good. So I think that's a little general. But you are attempting to develop Mati's idea, right? Okay, good. So I think that is a good next step.
Can I just ask a follow-up question on that?
Yeah, just on Mati first. So yeah.
So it's like taking it a step further also. So even Lashano is just guarding yourself in general from like things like you normally indulge yourself in. Okay. And if you temper yourself, you keep kosher, you keep the laws, everything that you use your mouth for, you just guard your all the definitions of your soul from that. Okay, so I just one little piece onto that, which I think is the same intuitional current that you were going on, is I think part of why this focuses on the mouth, both like when I was thinking about your initial move, like eating and speech, the thing that they have in common is for some reason it's very easy to do these things. It's very easy to just eat something that's in front of you, and it's very easy to just say what's on your mind. A lot of other averos take particular settings or activities or plans, but you find yourself eating is something you have to do, right? Like you have to do it, in order to live. So it's just very easy to just eat whatever it is you have access to. And it's also very easy to say whatever you have access to. And that's, part of the reason why the Torah, not why the Torah, but when the Torah says dibur lav kamaisa, like speech is not equal to an action in halacha, it's because people don't relate to it psychologically as an action. It's just just a natural course of thinking. What were you gonna say?
It's so with the mouth. Yeah. How does it how will it cause distress to the soul?
Right. So that's what we have to figure out. Yeah. Yeah, Sean.
Can I do a completely separate approach?
I kind of want to focus on this one since
All right.
seems to be bubbling right now. You'll remember it, right?
Can you just restate the current idea?
The current idea is that this is talking about guarding your mouth from eating things, presumably things that are like just appealing pleasure-wise, and then saying things that are presumably appealing pleasure-wise, and saying if you do that, you're going to guard your soul from sorrows. And our question now is, what are these sorrows that are caused jointly by eating and speaking? And I say jointly because I think that's the power of your approach is in the fact that it's the Venn diagram. That if I said, what are the harms of Lashon Hara? You give me a bunch of harms of Lashon Hara. If I said, what are the harms of eating unhealthy foods or overindulging, you can give me harms of that. But what's the thing in common? That's like the foothold that appeals to me in your idea. Chaim?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Mati started saying this before, but something that I think I noticed in Mati's shot, and I'm not 100% sure like the questions that you're posing right now, but something that I noticed is that if you're guarding against eating, eating or call it like physical things, right? But like with the eating and against something that's more, I don't know if I would say esoteric or such, but like something like speaking is something. It's we kind of don't view it like you said. We don't really view it as much as if it's viewed as like less physical, I guess.
Yeah.
Then you kind of, if you guard against like those two things as categories, then you kind of get all four like nefashot, like you get all of them like perfected, because you have the two animalistic ones and then you have the two like soul ones. And like if you're guarding your tongue against saying the wrong things, then you're going to be, you're going to have to train your mind to be able to like, hold back from jumping on things. And like you can kind of see where I'm going with this, but it just an interesting observation on Mati's shot is that it kind of answers like it could like encompass like all four of the different types of.
I just want to bring out a methodology point in what Chaim is saying, and then we'll go with the David and Sean. Is that I feel like one of the things that's developed in my understanding of Mishlei, primarily because of the Monday night shiur, is Shlomo Melech's use of deliberate ambiguity. When we asked this question, what is nefesh, we assumed it would be one of these four, right, or specific meaning, and definitely the meforshim take it that way. But I think that there is a separate category where he uses a deliberately ambiguous term to encompass lots of meanings. Okay, in other words, let's say he only wanted to talk about, I don't know, like the psychological dimension. So he would use the word ruach, which is much more pointing to the psyche. But the fact that he uses nefesh, that has this like omni-comprehensive meaning, might mean that you guard yourself from all types of these things. Like you are, again, just to elaborate on what Chaim was saying, like you're guarding your mouth from unhealthy or overindulgence in foods. So that is going to result in prolonging your life. It's also going to result in a different like level of pleasure and taiva in terms of your animalistic thing. Like if you're constantly just like putting in your mouth whatever appeals to you, like that is an addictive way of eating. And like all addictions, it's not going to, you're constantly going to be chasing that sort of like thing. I mean, you see this most clearly in this society with sugar, people's relationship with sugar. Like people weren't built for having so much sugar, and like people just keep on eating and eating and eating. And then with your intellect, Chaim is adding one point with the intellect, like if you hold back your tongue from saying like whatever idea is on your mind, like even these half-formed ideas, you actually like think about what you say before you say it, it's gonna save you from a lot of intellectual mistakes, that you might make. So it might be aiming at all these benefits, but the way you do it is in eating and in speech. Is that fair summary of your idea, Chaim? Did I miss anything?
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. All right, David and then Sean.
Okay, it was on Ariel's question.
Yeah.
Which was, if I remember correctly, it was on how the like constantly intaking everything, how it's actually going to lead to tzara nafsho.
Yeah.
Okay, so at least one thought I've had particular to the animalistic soul, and this I've applied this to myself for being on vacation, where I've had like this on vacation, I just try like taking everything I can, and then I get myself into this mindset of trying to grab everything I can, like making a good out of that. And given that that's not really possible, I end up with much more pain of not being able to completely indulge in all the enjoyments of Piv and then all the going out of Lishono. And that has caused plenty of tzara nafsho to myself. So just a thought on then how that leads to tzara nafsho is if you don't establish yourself any sort of restrictions on this, that becomes like an ultimate what you're working in, and then you don't actually get all that.
Interesting. I could definitely see how that applies to eating. I have a harder time seeing how that applies in the same way to speaking.
Yeah.
And again, I think that Ariel planted a poison splinter in our minds by using the word intake.
Okay.
I think I'm hearing that you're too fixated on the idea of intake.
Okay, sure.
So like maybe there's an idea there, but like I think that's too broad of a net, you know. Yeah, Sean.
Okay, so working within this interpretation.
Yeah.
Right. So a person who eats whatever, right, or says whatever, right. So there's a part of them that's like, maybe you shouldn't eat that, and there's a part of them that says maybe you shouldn't say that, right?
Yeah.
That's the part that they're losing when they overindulge themselves. They kind of push off that part of themselves to the side,
Okay.
and they make it quieter and quieter and quieter until it's not really there anymore.
Okay.
And so they completely lose that, and that's what they are, and that's going to cause them. It's like a psychological suffering to their nefesh.
Okay. Okay. So that was the question I was going to ask you: is are you answering question number 2? So you are answering question number 2, but I wasn't sure whether you're also trying to answer question number 6. And okay, yeah. So I'm sold on question number 2, right? That like the more you ignore that little voice that says maybe you shouldn't eat this or maybe you shouldn't say this. And again, by the way, when I say like ignoring it, you don't always have to obey the little voice, but you always have to listen to it. You know, like if you're not even asking the question of should I eat this or should I say this, that's going to lead, like, then you're just not making a decision. But if you say, like, if you at least hear it and you're like, okay, cost benefit analysis, okay, fine, you know. So that I'm sold on, that this is how you are, this is how the Shmira works, and this is how the fool in the pasuk, falls into this trap. Sean is going one step further and saying the tsara is the loss of that.
Yeah, so I'm reading the second half slightly different than how he translated it, which is he guards himself from a troubled soul.
Okay.
Or the troubling of his soul.
Yeah, it's a hard read because saros, first of all, I mean, it's a noun and it's plural.
Isn't it? It can't nafsho be possessive of it?
Saros nafsho, the soul's saros. You could say that. Yeah.
So the soul is having a sorrow.
All right. So they're all accepted. Yeah. The soul's saros. Okay. That you sold me. Yeah. That was not intentional. That was bad. Okay. So what Sean is saying is that you are actually harming your soul because you are debilitating it in regards to its like
function. You're damaging it.
Yeah, but it's a specific function that you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Denial,
Temperance, yeah, the quality of temperance, the ability of self-control, right? Yeah, and that I would say is of these 4 things. I think that is in the realm of the animalistic soul,
and that can also lead to like other sorrows,
right? Yeah, so there's where you can have the deliberate ambiguity coming in, and this is also what I like about this interpretation. Okay. When the spotlight was shining on what are saros nafsho, like in general, then we have this problem of there are many saros nafsho, and then we have Ariel's question of this is obvious. There's so many pasuk in Mishlei about this, or like Isaac's idea. Isaac says a similar thing that if you know Mishlei, you know how much bad stuff can happen through speech. But what this does is it shines the light on the mechanism, saying you're going to harm the mechanism. And that will open the gate to all these other saros nafsho that Mishlei talks about anymore. But now it is giving us a chidush, that links up to our other ideas. And so the chidush is that it guards your ability to exercise self-control. Yeah, I feel like we could go one level deeper into that. How exactly does that work? Like the premise here, and I agree experientially that this might be true, that like whenever, I guess what I'm wondering is how much is this phenomenon you're talking about unique to Piv and Lashon, the way we're saying it, and how much of it is about instinctual control in general? And then, I think it's also true in general. Good. Yeah. And then the pasuk is only applying it here. Like just 1 second. Like I've been talking about this in the self-experiment group, but like, back in the day, and by the day, I mean like before smartphones and before Gmail, so then I used to like have to check my email by going to, like, this is back, embarrassing, back when I used to use Hotmail, but like I used to like have to like go to Hotmail and like sign in, and then like, check my email. And then Gmail came about, and my habit was to keep Gmail open all the time. And then when smartphones came about, then I was inundated with like notifications when I got emails. So then it became a thing where I lost the ability to control myself with checking my email. And that came from the fact that like many times I did not resist that urge. And then I just lost the ability to do it. I had to like regain it now, so a similar thing with like people who have been accustomed to eating whatever they feel like it or saying whatever is on their mind. Like it's like, I know people use the analogy, it's like a muscle, like you have to use it, otherwise it atrophies. I think the muscle of self-control, especially in areas that are, there's got to be a good term for this thing, like instincts that you can like act upon with immediacy, that we're saying, like the eating and the speaking, things like that is even more dangerous. It could lend itself to like those rats that just press the thing and then just get the stimulating the pleasure centers in their mind. Like, it's just, if it's a button, it's very easy. And like for instant gratification. Yeah. But I'm thinking about like a term for that class of instinctual gratification, like that you can't do for other types of instinctual gratification. It is like that. Yeah. That's good adjective. Yeah.
Can I clarify? I thought it sounded like, from what you have been saying, that there was something in the losing of that in itself that was painful, or that causes you pain, versus, unless I just misunderstood you.
No, I was saying that, right, your nefesh is like a part of you, and when it's in pain, so to say, when
Sorry, go ahead.
it's afflicted when you ignore it, and you're essentially damaging it. It's a distress to this thing.
Okay, because that sounded like, because what I was understanding you was saying that that where you will be getting damaged by is within, you're sounding more like the instinctual nefesh that you're going to be paining from that, and that sounded more like either the himself or the intellect.
Well, the only reason I'm going this way is because I'm assuming that
they sound like two different ideas to me.
I mean, I'm not devoted to this idea. I was just saying that if you're gonna this part of you that says maybe you shouldn't eat that or maybe you shouldn't say that is going to be in the realm of the instinctual. Now, hopefully it'll be informed by your intellect, but like the mechanism of self-control, I was allocating to the animalistic. That's the only reason why I was like putting the emphasis on that. Is that consistent with yours, or you are saying something different?
I don't think,
or you're not taking a stance on it.
Yeah, I'm not taking a stance on it. I don't think it necessarily. I'm not sure whether or not it is a function of the animalistic soul or the intellectual soul.
Right. Yeah, I hear. I mean, just the reason why I am going this direction is I'm influenced by the Rambam and the Shemona Prakim, where when he divided the soul into five, the 5 parts, and he calls this the koach hamisorer, the emotive part of the soul, which is the part of you that is drawn towards things or away from things. That's, whereas the rational soul is just the part of you that can think. And so it's true that thinking, you can think about practical decisions, but the actual mechanism is in the psyche. Yeah.
The only thing is with animal, like if we're saying the animalistic soul is the same construct that animals have, animals do not have self-control.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know in the Rambam's framework though how he would say that. Like, so just 2 things because we're almost close to the end. I'm gonna just give the thing that I gasped about, and then I want to hear your approach so we could get it down on the table, and then tomorrow I'll come back to it. So the thing I gasped about is here we're talking about you're not listening to that part of yourself that's saying maybe you shouldn't eat this or maybe you shouldn't do this. Does that not remind you of how I thought this was gonna be more dramatic.
I guess a hint also.
Of how we were explaining the pasuk we did on a Thursday, which was Yir Giborim ala Chacham v'yored oz miftecha. Chacham goes up into a city of warriors and brings down the strength of its security. And we said that in the Shlomo's Koheles metaphor, the Chacham is referring to your intellect, and the city is referring to your body that's ruled over by the king, which is your Yetzer Hara. And we were saying that the chidush in that pasuk is the fact that no one listens to the Chacham, even though the Chacham can save the city. And your question was like how do we prevent this from happening in the future? Like in terms of your inner city, how do you you're one of these inner city kids. In terms of your inner city, how do you prevent yourself from making this mistake of like not listening to your inner Chacham? So this is giving us an answer to that, which is that by practicing shmira in these readily instinctually available areas of eating and speech, you're training yourself to listen to this voice. I guess I'm going more with the fact that the chacham is the intellect, maybe, but and you practice it here, but it will the benefits will extend to other areas of your instinctual life also, something like that. Yeah. So start again. Yeah. What was your approach?
So my approach also goes back to the previous pasuk, because I remember that the Malavim had linked it back to the previous.
Okay.
Pasuk.
Yeah.
All right. So working
That's
within
true.
my previous idea from last pasuk, right?
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to go a little bit different in terms of Piv and Lashono. So Lashono can just declare, confirm, right? It can also mean just like speech, just in general. It doesn't mean like the actual tongue.
Correct. Yeah.
So
it can mean speech, language, or tongue.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of mouth is like physically coming from you, versus speech is like disembodied.
Okay.
Right? So a person can have a person can guard what they say when they know that they're going to be held accountable to it, or they cannot, right? And then a person can also have a lack of restraint in terms of just information in general, right? Things that they think might not necessarily be associated with them, right? And so a person who says things without intellectual backing, either when they say it and it can be tied to them because they're saying it because everyone else around them is saying it, or they're just saying something and they don't really care whether or not it's tied to them. They don't think that it's necessarily going to be tied to them. Either of those things, if they're not guarding that, so then that's going to cause damage to their intellectual selves. They're not going to actually comprehend or know things. And then that's going to be damaging to their stronghold, right? From the previous pasuk is not going to be the things that they're saying and the things that they're basing their ideas and their actions, everything off of, is not going to be secure.
Okay, can you just give me an example? I understood the second half. Can you just give me an example of the difference between Piv and Lashono? Just something that's not clicking.
Okay, so when someone like mouth is like physically tied to like the person.
Okay.
So when someone like gets up in front of people and is like says like a statement or like a speech and is like, quote me on this, right? Versus someone who's kind of just saying something, going along with things, right? Where they're not really like a lot of times a person says something and it can be completely taken out of context, or they're not careful in terms of, right? Or they say something not intending that it's going to be like, they say something without the thought that this is something that I might be held accountable for.
Okay.
Right. So a word that you say that you are going to be held accountable for would be like mouth, because it's tied to the physical person. Versus Lashono is something that the person thinks that people are not going to call me out on this necessarily.
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I don't know if I'm sold on it yet, but it makes sense as a distinction. So let me just let's just wrap it up really quickly. Do our one sentence reminder summary. So Mati's approach was guarding your mouth from eating and your tongue from speaking, since these are areas of like ready access for there's a word. What do you call it when you do something impetuous? No. Impulsive decisions, right? If you don't guard this, you'll harm the impulse control mechanism, which is the saros nafsho. I'm doing this very note-taking form. I'm not doing this to like present. And that will also lead to other saros. Okay, and that's the deliberate ambiguity. Okay, that's just, I think I was trying to get everything down. Okay, then Sean's approach is connected to previous pasuk and guarding against speech that is directly associated with you, that's mouth, right? And I'm going to just put your phrase in quotes, like go with the flow / like non-attributable speech, right?
Yeah.
For tongue will so failure to do this will harm your intellect, and then we'll have to elaborate tomorrow.
Intellect or others.
Okay.
First we reviewed stronghold as like a and the last one was like a community.
Other things, right? I.e. the stronghold. Okay, yeah. So this is just to get us to so we can jog our memory tomorrow. Okay,
Yeah.
let's stop for today. All right,
Thank you.
fun pasuk. Yeah. Thanks for coming.